evening. It's that time of day again. Here we are reading another bedtime story with First UCC. Tonight I'm reading another Beatrix Potter book, and this one is called The Tale of Mrs. Tiggy-Winkle. I love that little hedgehog. The Tale of Mrs. Tiggy-Winkle by Beatrix Potter. You see her? She's so cute. I have just a thing about animals wearing clothes. Isn't it adorable? Once upon a time, there was a little girl called Lucy who lived at a farm called Littletown. She was a good little girl, only she was always losing her pocket handkerchiefs. Do you have that problem? I don't carry pocket handkerchiefs very often. One day, little Lucy came into the farmyard crying. Oh, she did cry so. I've lost my pocket hanky. 3 hankins and a penny. Have you seen them, Tabby Kitten? She's asking the cat. Which is funny because last night I was asking my cat where she was. She somehow sneaked out of the house and we were looking for her and she is a house cat. She should not be outside. Luckily, she came back when it was starting to get dark. So I know all about talking to cats. The kitten went on a washing with her white paws. So Lucy asked the speckled hen, Sally Hennypenny, have you found 3 pocket hankins? She doesn't say handkerchiefs. She says pocket hankins. Like hankies. But the speckled hen ran into a barn clucking, I go barefoot, I go barefoot, I go barefoot. It's the funniest thing to say, isn't it? I'm actually barefoot right now. I can't say that I've talked to too many chickens. And then Lucy asked Cock Robin, sitting on a twig. Cock Robin looked sideways at Lucy with his bright black eye, and he flew over a stile and away. Lucy climbed upon the stile and looked up at the hill behind Littletown, a hill that goes up, up, into the clouds, as though it had no top. And a great way up the hillside, she thought she saw some white things spread upon the grass. That sounds like a clue. There she is. Lucy scrambled up the hill as fast as her stout legs would carry her. She ran along a steep pathway, up and up, until Littletown was right away down below. She could have dropped a pebble down the chimney. That's a funny description. I would never think of dropping a pebble down a chimney. But she was that high above the town. Presently, she came to a spring bubbling out from the hillside. Someone had stood a tin can upon a stone to catch the water. See the picture? See the little tin can right there by the water? But the water was already running over, for the can was no bigger than an egg cup. Egg cup. Some of the words in this book are not words we're super familiar with. An egg cup, I think, is the type of dish that you would put a soft-boiled or a poached egg. Maybe somebody can email me and let me know what kind of egg you put in an egg cup. And where the sand upon the path was wet, there were footmarks of a very small person. Lucy ran on and on. Just to show you that again. The path ended under a big rock. The grass was short and green, and there were clothes, props cut from bracken stems with lines of plaited rushes, that means braided, and a heap of tiny clothespins, but no pocket handkerchiefs. And there was something else, a door, straight into the hill. And inside it, someone was singing. Lily white and clean, oh, with little frills between, oh, smooth and hot, red rusty spot, never here be seen. Oh, that's a funny song. Look at that door. What do you think is inside of it? Somebody is singing. Oh, and here, see the clothesline with the sticks? Lucy knocked once, then twice, and interrupted the song. A little frightened voice called out, "Who's that?" Lucy opened the door, and what do you think there was inside the hill? A nice clean kitchen with a flagged floor and wooden beams, just like any other farm kitchen. Only the ceiling was so low that Lucy's head nearly touched it. And remember, Lucy's just a little girl. And the pots and pans were small, and so was everything there. Look how big the door is compared to Lucy. She's just as big as the door. They were right when they said it was a small door. There was a nice, hot, singy smell. And at the table, with an iron in her hand, stood a very stout, short person staring anxiously at Lucy. I was thinking, as I was reading this, singy smell. In my head, I was thinking, how could I describe a singy smell? Well, an iron definitely has a singy smell, doesn't it? Her gown was tucked up, and she was wearing a large apron over her striped petticoat. That's kind of like under the dress clothes. Her little black nose went sniffle, sniffle, snuffle, and her eyes went twinkle, twinkle. And underneath her cap, where Lucy had yellow curls, that little person had prickles. Look at that. So she says that she has her dress tucked up, and she has petticoats, and she's got prickles. So cute. Did you see the prickles sticking out of the hat and the petticoats? See how they're sticking out? "Who are you?" said Lucy. "Have you seen my pocket handkins?" The little person made a bob curtsy. "Oh yes, if you please'm. My name is Mrs. Tiggy-Winkle. Oh yes, if you please'm. I'm an excellent clear starcher." And she took something out of a clothes basket and spread it on the ironing blanket. She's using starch as she irons. I don't honestly even have an iron anymore. I have a steamer. So I definitely don't have starch when I do that kind of work. "What's that thing?" asked Lucy. "That's not my pocket handkin." "Oh no, if you please. That's a little scarlet waistcoat belonging to Cock Robin. Oh, we met him." And she ironed it and folded it and put it on one side. Do you see the red breast for Mr. Robin? They have a red belly, right? Scarlet waistcoat, she calls it. Then she took something else off the clothes horse, which is sort of like a rack. See the rack? The clothes horse. That isn't my penny, said Lucy. Oh no, if you please, that's a damask tablecloth belonging to Jenny Wren. Look how it's stained with currant wine. It's very bad to wash, said Mrs. Tiggy-Winkle. We always refer to Wrens as Jenny Wren, too. Do you do that? Do you ever call the Wrens Jenny Wren? That's what my mom always said, Jenny Wren. And we always called the catbird Mrs. Catbird. Mrs. Tiggy-Winkle's nose went sniffle, sniffle, snuffle, and her eyes went twinkle, twinkle, and she fetched another hot iron from the fire. Because her iron isn't electric, like ours might be. She has to put them in the fire and they get warm, and then she uses that to iron the clothes. There's one of my pocket hankins, cried Lucy, and there's my penny. A penny is a pinafore that she wears over top. You can see the pinafore that she has on now. How on earth did she lose her pinafore before? Mrs. Tiggy-Winkle ironed it and gophered it and shook out the frills. Oh, that is lovely, said Lucy. See what a good job she did? Mrs. Tiggy-Winkle is great with laundry. And what are those long yellow things with fingers like gloves? This is my favorite part. Oh, that's a pair of stockings belonging to Sally Hennypenny. Look how she's worn the heels out with scratching in the yard. She'll very soon go barefoot. Remember when she said that? I go barefoot, I go barefoot. She'll very soon go barefoot, said Mrs. Tiggy-Winkle. Look at the stockings. I never thought of a chicken wearing stockings. Why, there's another hankersniff, but it isn't mine. It's red. Oh no, if you please, that one belongs to old Mrs. Rabbit. And it did smell so much of onions. I had to wash it separately. I can't get out the smell. There's another one of mine, said Lucy. There's the one that belongs to Mrs. Rabbit. The red one. Smells like onions. What are those funny white things? Lucy asked. That's a pair of mittens belonging to Tabby Kitten. Do you ever have cats that it seems like they're wearing mittens and socks because their paws are different colors than the rest of their fur? That's what she's saying. That's a pair of mittens belonging to Tabby Kitten. I only have to iron them. She washes them herself. That's true. Cats take baths all the time. They give themselves a bath. They're always cleaning themselves. There's my last pocket hankin, said Lucy. Do you see the mittens? We always say that about our cat. Her name is Cosette. We will say she could be just walking across the room and then suddenly she needs to take a bath. She needs to clean something. And what are you dipping into a basin of starch? They're little Dicky shirt fronts belonging to Tom Titmouse. Most terrible particulars, said Mrs. Tiggy-Winkle. Now I've finished my ironing. I'm going to air some clothes. So you know how mice, they have that little white front on them, their white belly? That's what she's ironing now. The little white part here. That's funny. I never thought that those were all clothes parts on animals. What are these dear, soft, fluffy things, said Lucy. Oh, those are woolen coats belonging to the little lambs at Skelgyle. Skelgyle. Will their jackets take off? Asked Lucy. Oh, yes, if you please. Look at the sheep mark on the shoulder. And here's one marked for Gartsgaith. And 3 that come from Littletown. They're always marked at washing, said Mrs. Tiggy-Winkle. That would be important if you're doing laundry for lots of people. You can't get it mixed up. And she hung up all sorts and sizes of clothes, small brown coats of mice, and one velvety black moleskin waistcoat, and a red tail coat with no tail belonging to Squirrel Nutkin, and a very much shrunk blue jacket belonging to Peter Rabbit, and a petticoat, not marked, that had gone lost in the washing, and at last the basket was empty. Then Mrs. Tiggy-Winkle made tea, a cup for herself and a cup for Lucy. They sat before the fire on a bench and looked sideways at one another. Mrs. Tiggy-Winkle's hand holding the teacup was very, very brown and very, very wrinkly with the soap suds, and all through her gown and cap there were hairpins sticking wrong ends out, so that Lucy didn't like to sit too near to her. They're not really hairpins. Those are her quills for being a hedgehog. Super cute. Do you drink tea? Do you have tea parties? I love drinking tea. When they had finished tea, they tied up the clothes in bundles, and Lucy's pocket handkerchiefs were folded up inside her clean pinny and fastened with the silver safety pin. We know what that is, a safety pin. Finally, we know what something is. And then they made up the fire with turf. I think they put it out with a little bit of dirt. And came out and locked the door and hid the key under the door sill. That's adorable. Then, away down the hill trotted Lucy and Mrs. Tiggy-Winkle with the bundles of clothes. All the way down the path, little animals came out of the fern to meet them. The very first that they met were Peter Rabbit and Benjamin Bunny. And they needed their jackets. And she gave them their nice clean clothes, and all the little animals and birds were so very much obliged to dear Mrs. Tiggy-Winkle. She is a dear. So that at the bottom of the hill, when they came to the stile, there was nothing left to carry except Lucy's one little bundle. That's for sure. Lucy scrambled up the stile with the bundle in her hand, and then she turned to say good night and to thank the washerwoman. But what a very odd thing. Mrs. Tiggy-Winkle had not waited either for thanks or for the washing bill. She was running up the hill. And where was her white frilled cap and her shawl and her gown and her petticoat? Suddenly, Mrs. Tiggy-Winkle didn't have clothes at all. And how small she had grown, and how brown and covered with prickles. Why, Mrs. Tiggy-Winkle was nothing but a hedgehog. Now, some people say that little Lucy had been asleep upon the stile, and then how could she have found her 3 pocket handkins and a penny pinned with a silver safety pin? And besides, I have seen that door in the back of the hill called Cat Bell's, and besides, I and very well acquainted with dear Mrs. Tiggy-Winkle. That's so funny. They think that she was dreaming. She doesn't think so, does she? She really saw that. Well, now it's time for sleep, so let's fold our hands and close our eyes and say our bedtime prayer. Now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. May God guard me through the night and wake me with the morning light. Amen. Now I'm reading still. What's today? Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday for sure. And I have The Tale of Squirrel Nutkin, The Tale of Benjamin Bunny, The Tale of Peter Rabbit, The Tailor of Gloucester, and The Tale of Mr. Jeremy Fisher. I wonder which two I will read for this week. I hope you sleep well, and I'll see you tomorrow.